Nicole Sanzio. Give it up for Nicole Sanzio. Yeah. Um, Nicole is a distinguished authority in media licensing rights and clearances. She is the owner of Indigenous Music and its parent company, Multi Music
Multi music,
and Media Group.
multi multi music and media group.
There you go. And
Yeah.
I think it's funny because when I met you, it was, oh, she does one thing. And then it was like, oh, well, she does this too. And then now it's like, oh, you do that. Oh, wow. And you just put out an album,
I
right?
did.
So that's,
Put out a solo piano album last year,
yeah,
and
yeah.
Empire signed it.
I'm about to give you this one.
Empire, Empire, Wayna,
There you go.
West Africa, North. No, I'm sorry. This keeps going out.
It keeps going out. Hold on.
I think the battery.
Share one mic.
Yeah, so I put an album out. Empire signed it. Middle East, because I'm Lebanese. Free Palestine.
So, I guess let's just start from the top. When we, or when I first met you, you were working at Viacom. Was it Viacom there? Or what?
MTV.
Okay, MTV. And you were working in,
Music and media licensing.
okay. And big shout out to Drawzilla. You helped Drawzilla get quite a few placements on MTV networks.
Yes.
Um, so just tell us a little bit about how you got into music licensing. Because I'm gonna be honest, I've always been like, yo, I'd be the dopest music supervisor. But I have no idea. Like, did you go to school for it? Like, how does one become a music supervisor?
Thanks. Okay. Um, well, I always had a passion for music, first of all. I always had a passion for the music business, but I only got that passion when I was like, I need to start somewhere. So I interned at EMI Music Publishing, which is the giant of all publishing companies. Um, Jay-Z is signed to that. Everybody's signed. Um, and I got my knowledge there, my basic knowledge of royalties and copyright and just all the little areas of the business of music. And I started. I left. I came back. I got a chance to work at VH1. It was like a 4-month position, and I was leaving like just a job that I hated. So I was like, "What do I have to lose? It's 4 months. If it, whatever. We'll see what happens after that." But 4 months turned into a year and a half at VH1, and um, then they hired me full time staff, and then they realized I was getting bored, and I get bored easily, so they created a position for me at MTV, basically doing what I was doing at VH1, which is music and media licensing. Music and media licensing is basically protecting intellectual property rights, protecting MTV from getting sued or VH1 or whatever Viacom channel it was, um, protecting them from getting sued for using other people's intellectual property. Um, and I kind of just I lucked out. I was I reached out to a multitude of people. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to be in the music industry, and I lucked out. I met. I'm so old that this goes back to like AOL days where there were profiles, and I would search like internships at studios or whatever. And there's a guy that he was an attorney for. Actually, no, he was a band member. He was a musician, and he basically was like, "Oh, I'll give your resume to my attorney. He works for Nickelodeon, and I don't know what he does, but he's also our band attorney." And I was like, okay. So one thing led to another. It turned out that this attorney lived in this really small area of New Jersey called Little Falls. It's like a 2 mile radius. He lived there, and I lived there. So we met up, and I guess he just wanted to make sure I didn't have two heads on me. And he gave my resume to, Nickelodeon as part of the Viacom family. So I luckily wound up with that job at that 4 month position at VH1. And then, like I said, I got bored. They put me into MTV. I got to go to the Super Bowl halftime show, Nipplegate. um, I got to work on all of the VMAs, the MTV Movie Awards, uh, TRL, DFX, all the live shows. Um, and in that time, I met Jay and Drawzilla because there was at some point where I realized that not only do I have a passion for the business, I was like, oh, I'm going to climb the ladder and become this VP at MTV one day. But at some point, I realized that I have a passion for music too, creative, and I have a good ear. So I started because I was in a role to license music. I knew how to do the contracts. I knew how to basically talk my producers into using music that was already cleared because I cleared it. And I started building MTV, a little in house music library. And it was myself, Drawzilla, my circle of friends, and this little music library started like MTV just started using the crap out of it because there was a lot of hip hop. Now hip hop, I don't know if you know, but there's a lot of writers on hip hop, whether it be a lot of producers and writers, or a writer and a lot of producers, or vice versa. And hip hop involves sampling a lot. So, but to put on MTV shows or in the background on shows, you can't use samples unless you clear them. So, um, I made sure that there were no samples in anything that I was sticking into this library. So Drawzilla had a set of rules. Everybody had a set of rules that later became like this is stuff that I just naturally learned, but it became like the staple of what everybody follows today for music and TV and film. So yeah, no samples, the way you should end a song, the way all these little things, that I just naturally experience, but it's with it. And the music supervision is I only do music supervision once in a while because what I do, not only did MTV teach me how to clear music, but they taught me everything. Clearing footage, photos, magazine covers, newspaper headlines, everything, you name it. So I learned everything at MTV. And then when I built that little in house music library, that's when I realized I'm not meant to climb the ladder at MTV. I'm meant to start my own thing and live this freelance lifestyle, doing what I did because what I did at MTV, it's a very small circuit. Like everybody knows everybody, and it's freelance, So I decided to put 6 months behind in case I had breaks between my freelance gigs. Um, but I went straight to Fuse TV. so, so, so it's like I was fortunate
I've
because
not heard Fuse TV in a long time.
I was fortunate to segue right into another job, but that too was freelance, and there was only one time that I had a break, and it was after I cleared the People's Choice Awards in LA, and because like they flew me out there first class, put me in the palazzo, everything. I was like, I am not giving up this gig. So I was a clearance supervisor for People's Choice Awards. And then I had a break. And then I started getting scared because I was like dipping into that 6 months that I put behind. But luckily, I then went to, I did like a, at that time, Viacom was being sued by somebody, YouTube was being sued by Viacom. And I started working on that lawsuit just to help me, basically it was a job, quick job. And then finally I got this job at NBC News working on the Today Show for over 13 years. And it was freelance and it was part time and it was the best kind of freelance job somebody could have because it paid me a full time salary for a part time job. Um, and thankfully, like everything happens for a reason. MTV, I got those skills from MTV and it got me that job, but then that came to an end too. Everything has to come to an end, unfortunately. Maybe fortunately. But yeah, so that's how I did that. But then the music supervision, like I was saying, the music supervision is I so 90% of music supervision is clearances. And everybody thinks it's this glorious job, like you get to pick out all the music, and it's not. And it's like so I because I did the clearances, and at some point I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And but I naturally fell into music supervision because somebody might have been like, hey, I'm working on a film. I need this song. I really want this song in there. And I cleared it. And because they didn't have a music supervisor attached to it, they could give me a music supervisor credit. And a lot of music supervision projects happen like that. It's clearances. And then that 10% where you might have some creative um, control to make suggestions to the director of the film or the producer of the studio, the TV show or stuff like that. But with films, a lot of the times the music direction comes straight from the director, and then you have to go and clear what they want, and that's part of music supervision.
You just blew my mind. I didn't know any of like I mean it does feel like it's this glorious job where you just get to give me the budget and let me go find this stuff and this fits perfect in this scene, but
No, but it's not like that.
damn. I mean, and because we're all looking for income streams and we're trying to figure out ways to get the residual income and all that kind of stuff, like a lot of creatives are like, man, I want to do sync.
Yeah.
And sync's become this attractive word
Yeah.
for producers, artists, and such to chase.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm in sync and not music supervision. I love sync. I love pitching music. I love pitching music because it comes from my catalog that I started from scratch. You know, I'm executive producer on anything we do, so it starts with me, and then I pretty much let it go. I tell people what I want, and I let them do what they want, and that's it. But it's not like I'm in the studio all the time with them or anything like that. But yeah, because I believe in everybody that we have in our catalog, and they're so talented, and as many. It's tough these days because a 5-year-old can create a song out of his bedroom these days, and there's so much competition now, and that competition it keeps growing every year. At one time, I used to be able to say, for every 200 pitches, we'll get a placement. Now it's like, for every 2,000 pitches, we'll get a placement.
That's a pretty tough ratio.
Yeah.
Going from 200 to 2,000. Let me ask you this: just what are like some of the key factors that make a song or composition more likely to be selected? Like, are there like certain things that you that's a deal breaker besides samples, obviously, but are there certain things that you key on and listen for?
Not really. What happens a lot is, especially in film, films are like take a long time to be made, and people might be shooting. They have their schedules. They're shooting. They're in production, and then they get to post production, which is our area, and the director and everybody has had their favorite songs in there for the longest time, and then they get to the post schedule, and they're going through everything, and they're like, that song's not that popular anymore. We don't really need it to be, like, or they realize that a song in a restaurant scene or under dialogue, like, which they might have put their favorite song there, but it's like, why would you want to pay 20, 40, $100,000 for a song that is similarly playing in the background that you may or may not even be able to recognize, and you could pay 2, 5, 8,000 for it. So there are a lot of different factors and a lot of competition. Like it might it might come down to just like, maybe something had a better hook than the other, or it's maybe it was really hard to come down to decide between two songs, but most of the factors are how well does it fit in the scene, and it's not like up to, it doesn't mean that your song was bad or did it, like those 2,000 pitches doesn't mean that those 2,000 songs that I pitched were bad. It just wasn't the right timing.
So, in your expertise, you've been doing this for, well, let's just say the last, I don't want to put a number,
20.
20 years.
I started when Jay started.
Right. Yeah, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So have you noticed like certain genres or like a change, a shift in the type of music that syncs a lot?
Um, it's still what I started with. It's hip hop, R&B pop, like up tempo party R&B pop, um, electronica, the EDM trap, and uh, I mean it'll always be hip hop. It's just now it's trap, unfortunately. Um, and drill is like in there a little bit now, but it'll always be those like indie pop, indie rock, electronica, pop R&B up tempo, or the gems are like Motown sounding soul.
Right.
Amy Winehouse sounding. Actually, my voice right now. My voice doesn't sound like this normally.
It's been a long day.
It's actually very soft, my voice usually, but yeah.
Can you like share an example of like can you let us know like a record that you've placed in a project or movie or TV that you're particularly proud of?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot, but I guess the most recent one, which is there's a new show on Apple TV, Apple Plus TV, or Apple TV Plus, whatever it is, called. It's an animation and it's a trilogy. It's called Wandola, and we plays 4 songs in it, and one of them I'm particularly proud of because they used it in an opening of uh, an episode, and it was cool because like Paul Otten, who's like one of my best rock guys, rock and pop, indie pop, all that. He We did a song like 10 years ago, created from scratch, got a couple placements off of it, and here we are 10 years later where they want to use the song, but this time we actually had to go back into it, which is why it's so important to keep all your session files. um, and we had to go back into it. We wound up working with, this is Skydance. This is like, huge. Um, we had meetings set up and we actually had to have our composer, Paul, create to the scene. And thank God he was good at it or thank God he was just flexible because he was available and thank God he was around. But that I'm really proud of.
And you got a nice list
Yeah.
of things that you worked on. But let me ask you about your classical. Is it neoclassical?
Yeah, it's neoclassical. I started writing music on the piano a lot when I was in high school, and I never did anything with it. But I'm old as fuck, so I feel like I had to. Like God didn't give me this for nothing. So I had to put it out, and yeah, so I put it out, and initially I put it out, and I teamed up with the National Coalition for the Homeless, and any proceeds would go towards them. However, streaming sucks, and so I wound up having to like give them an actual donation.
That's crazy. Streaming made no money, so you had to come out your own pocket.
Yeah, but it's okay. And then the second album I put out, I mean, same album, but Empire redistributed it, and now that clause is basically for all the international war crimes that are going on with the Middle East, with Israel in particularly. So,
Take a second to pause on that one. So just to kind of wind this down, to make it specific to people in the audience, people here at the camp, um, the business of sync, right? Would you say that the business of sync is something that has pitfalls? Are there any things that they should avoid when they're sending their music into people, when they're trying to get involved with these libraries and stuff? Because I see a lot of hey, just send me your music and we'll
yeah.
sync it, and then I see a lot of like funny looking like contracts and you know
Hmm.
what's standard? What's a standard deal?
There is no standard deal, but
Well,
if
what's
you
a bad deal for a creator? Do you think?
someone wants to take all your master and publishing rights, or what I've seen lately, which is kind of shady, when a company wants writer share on something. Yeah, you might see that because of the way the industry is changing. It's sad, but Viacom, Warner Brothers, Discovery. There's no sense in me pitching instrumentals like I used to these companies anymore because they have their own music libraries now. They got smart. They they real excuse me. They realized that they could have all those royalties filtering back into their companies. So they got rid of like the little guys like myself, and so but then now I only pitch songs for the most part, unless I have like an advertising company that's like, but um, the deals. If you want to, here's the thing: everything used to be non-exclusive, and everyone was retitling. And retitling means that, let's say you want to work with me, um, 20 years ago when my contracts were non-exclusive. And then you want to work with 6 other people pitching the same tracks because you want to see who's going to be working for you, like who's going to be actually pitching your tracks. Um, and it was that way for the longest time until like music supervisors realized that they're listening to a lot of the same songs 6 different times. And not to mention that there could be publishing issues because a lot of people are claiming publishing on the same song, even though it's not exclusive. And publishing is really always, you know, ownership by the whoever composed it. Um, but if you signed a non-exclusive deal, then you gave somebody the rights to pitch it non-exclusively, and so now a lot of people do exclusive deals. Here's the thing, actually, how many of you are writing? Like, how many of you are composing instrumentals or songs regularly? Okay. Anybody get sing places? Okay. And like your deal, I don't know what your deal was like, but a typical sync deal is like somebody's gonna take a commission for pitching your song. And you don't give away any rights. It's just strictly a commission deal. It's kind of like a finder's fee. It's like, okay, you're gonna get, or let's say I'm the sync agent, I'm gonna get 20%, 10, 15, 20% if I place your song by pitching it. The problem is that those songs are usually on a non-exclusive basis. So there's a chance that you gave it to 6 other people or whoever you could give it to that you thought could pitch your song. So it still runs into those non-exclusive issues. Um, Somewhere along the way, I realized that non-exclusive is not the way to go anymore. And I realized with people like Paul Otten, these heavy hitter composers that are getting a lot of syncs, they realize too that you should focus yourself to 4 or 5 publishers. Keep your and spread it out. So maybe tonight do 5 songs for this publisher, tomorrow do 5 different songs for this publisher. The next day, take a week and just crank shit out and give it to these 4 or 5 publishers that you decided, and publishers that gave you the opportunity to work with. Put it with them and see if anything happens. Because number one, the music supervisors, they usually know these publishers. They have working relationships with these publishers already. So it's not going to be one of those blind things. Like anytime I submit music to somebody, it's not blind. It's a relationship that I built over the years. And like Jay and everybody always enforces how important relationships are. It's all about relationships. So, you know, those 4 or 5 relationships with the music supervisors might get a lot further than the other non-exclusive pitching blindly, whatever. So,
Is it customary for, because you have your own situation, is that customary for other music supervisors that people do sync?
that have publishing companies?
No, they kind of have their own like team or situation.
I don't understand the question.
Well, so you have in Music, right? So
Yeah.
you have your own kind of situation. So
I'm a publisher.
right.
I'm not a sync agent.
Well, but so you're able to take your own catalog
Uh huh.
and work your catalog,
Yes.
right? So my question is, other people, are they do they have the opportunity? Because I mean, so are they able to use their own people? Like, is there opportunity for people? You know, because
Yes, as long as they don't sign anything that's going to bar them from working with a company like mine.
right.
And it shouldn't. You shouldn't ever sign anything that's going to bar you from working with other people. Um, and just realize that whatever you do for this person might be very exclusive. You can't touch it. Let them do their thing with it. Same thing with, publisher two. Leave it alone. Put it in there. Forget about it. Publisher three, same thing. Keep your film and TV stuff separate from this stuff, like what you're going to be doing this weekend.
That's good advice. Good advice. Give it up for Nicole, y'all. How many of y'all have music that anybody create music for sync? Are you creating stuff? So, Greg, just how many placements have you gotten?
I have one sync placement.
Okay, dope. And how'd that come about?
She talked about it a little bit. It was a relationship with a up and coming movie director. It's in a film called The Comeback with Tate Diggs and April Jones. Um, Built a relationship with him. Started sending some music. He wanted the artist on it. The rest was history.
Yeah.
Okay, dope.
And you know what that says? You should, become friends with directors.
Right. Forget the music soups. Find the
Maybe,
directors.
yeah. Maybe tap into, and I know I say this, and I don't know who actually ever does anything after I say it, but get in touch with your local schools, like the art schools, anybody creating independent films or film or school projects, films, and ask the director, you need a composer? You need music? You know? And then build on that relationship and keep doing it. And, maybe one day they're going to be a big director. You never know.
You never know. Um, so, Hatch was always big on networking and all that kind of stuff. Give us just some advice for creators, people that come to these camps, on just something that you learned along your journey to just be successful when it comes to making money at music. Not necessarily sing, but just surviving in the music business.
Mm, save, save when you can. Because I'm going to be honest, this year really sucked for everybody in the entertainment industry. Um, after COVID, we had the writer's strike, the actor's strike, the Editors Guild contract came up in July, so everybody was like waiting to see what happened there. So this year, in terms of productivity, really sucked big time. And if hadn't saved as much as I did, I'd really be fucked. Um, but there will be those ups and downs, and I never knew it until this year. It's a rough year. I was fortunate to get placements and get placements that aren't going to kick in until next year. So, like the Kevin Hart has an animation coming out on BET, and we have like 4 songs in that. And I won't get paid. We won't get paid until who knows when, sometime next year when it comes out. Um, and because the year prior has also been those strikes and everything. Nothing kicked in this year except that Wandala and a couple other things. But it's been a rough year. But networking is everything. just because you're not getting, or getting to do business with someone right then and there, be yourself, lock in with anybody who you're going to get along with. Anybody likes anybody who likes you for who you are, and vice versa, and just be friends and just build. Don't expect anything, because why try and build with someone you're not really like feeling, or vice versa, they're not feeling you, or it's a waste of time. Might as well build something that you can cherish too.
That's a bar. Give it up for Nicole, y'all. We appreciate you. So Nicole's going to be hanging around a little bit this weekend. She'll be around, on Sunday. So once again, feel free to, ask folks questions, but also just build relationships, because that's what we're here for. Nicole's one of the dopest people I know. Years and years and years of just hanging out and just being good people. And it's never been transactional, but those are the things that actually turn
We
into...
heard gunshots together.
Hey, we did. We heard gunshots. I experienced racism. Nicole was like, what the... We've been through some stuff, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, shout out to Nicole, man. All right, so we're going to transition into the next thing. We're going to play a couple joints. And yeah, man.